Okay, so welcome to this week's lesson on thick and thin and shading. What we're going to look at today primarily is how to make images stand out from the page by using a technique called thick and thin. I've shown you with the image in front of you now what we are working towards, so you've got an idea of where we're going and what you should be aiming for by the end of this lesson. This took approximately 40 minutes to do, so hopefully it will take you a similar period of time. Prior to doing this video, you will need to have looked at Engager 3, which is the square where we're going to start off by looking at the thick and thin technique. Now, as previously stated in the other video, just a very quick recap in case you've looked at this over separate days. If we see a spider on a surface, if the spider crosses over to another surface, we can still see the spider, then the line would remain thin. However, if the spider crosses over to a surface where he would disappear, it becomes a double thickness line. And again, the more detail we build up on these images, the more the actual image will stand out. So for instance, if we had an additional square in the side of this box there, if the spider crossed over from this surface here and went inside, then that line would become double thickness and again would disappear under the top. However, it would remain still visible on these two internal surfaces. So what we're going to look at doing is applying this to your drawing work. So you should now have in front of you, if you're on this task, three vehicles. The first vehicle is the simplest one, which is this van, which I've done a little bit of detailing on already. The second image is the plane, which again, fairly simple. And then the third image is this sort of snow plough. Again, they're all fairly straightforward if you apply the basic rules. In the case of the truck, I would start off personally by working around all the outside edges. So again, if the spider walked from this surface, disappeared around the back, he would disappear, and therefore we would double thickness the line. You can treat the lines that are there already as being single thickness, so you're only doing the double thickness lines. And again, just a simple tip, if you flip your ruler over so the numbers are down, it will just stop you dragging ink across your page when you remove the ruler. So again, just working around the edge of it, double thickness in the lines. There'll be a double thickness line there at the front as well. So you'd work around the whole cab, just considering, again, if spider walked across surface, would it disappear? If you're not sure, please feel free to check the solution sheet which I've accompanied on Doodle for you to check and compare your own work against. So we're just working around the cab. In terms of the wheels, obviously it's a curved surface, so what you're going to have to do is just try your best to follow lines and do them freehand. So like I said, the truck is the easiest one to do. So that truck is more or less done. Just finish off the wheel around there. So that would be a solution for the truck. You don't have to worry about any of the detail around here because it's assumed that they're effectively stickers in this particular regard. But obviously within the truck as a hollow object, if the spider travels from that side to this side, you'd still see it, therefore those items remain thin. Moving on to the plane. Again, the plane is fairly straightforward. Areas to watch out are double thicknessing around the bottom of the tail fin, a little bit of double thicknessing on these lines, continuation of the double thicknessing all the way along the wing, double thickness around the bottom of the wing and the underside of the plane, and again round the top there where there will be a drop off if the wing is logically further down. Again, it's fairly straightforward. I'm not going to go into masses of detail on that. You can look at the solution sheets and you will quickly understand what is going on. The one I do want to have a look at a little bit more detail, because I've done something slightly different, is the snowplow. Now there's a couple of ways you can look at the snowplow. How I viewed it is that the wheels are separate items. One way you could look at the snowplow is that if the spider, for instance, was on the top of the wheel and it walked onto this surface, then you would still see it and therefore that would remain a single thickness line. However, because I'm considering the wheels to be separate components, I'm going to double thickness all the way around the outside edge of the wheel. Again, it's a graphical impact technique, so if you're wanting something to stand out, then it's worth applying it in that regard. So around the edge of the wheel, I would simply double thickness the line, and again it will make it stand out. And we'll look at the solution sheet in a minute. But the rest of this would remain single thickness, so therefore you wouldn't have to go over it again. So moving on to the solution sheet. So you can see from the solution sheet that the whole item's been double thicknessed. There is a section in here which you would also consider, which hasn't copied through on my photocopy unfortunately, but I can simply add that in as being double thickness in there, and obviously these bits would also be double thickness as well. So once you've double thicknessed everything, you're ready to then look at colour. Now we're going to look at still applying the colour from the top left, and therefore if we're applying colour from the top left, top surfaces are all going to be light, surfaces on the left are going to be medium, and surfaces on the right hand side are all going to be dark. Again, if you've got angles, you may need to move from, for instance, if it's left to top, going medium to light. If it was from dark, running around to light, then again, move from dark through the tonal range. So I'll very quickly look at this because it is fairly straightforward again, once you've got the basic concept. So if we're looking at the snowplow, if it's going to be dark on the right, we would start off very dark and we'll just gradually move it through, going lighter as we go up, running round. If we're looking at the wheels, again, the wheels would be dark, running around the curved surface and moving through to light as we're getting onto the top. Again, try and shade within the lines, then you would find your medium tonal range to apply to the other side. I would just use a couple of colours for this, maybe 3 or 4. Depending on how your windows have come out, another option is to apply colour in regards to doing a bit of material rendering. So depending on how you've coloured in or fine lined your truck and your van, you can just add streaks of blue across, trying to give the impression that it's glass as another option on there. So that concludes our tutorial for this week. Again, hopefully it should be fairly straightforward. If you're not unsure, look at the solutions book, and then hopefully that will give you the answers you're looking for. Goodbye and stay safe.